So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this acoustic guitar right here and tell you the relationship that I've developed with it. This extremely humbling apparatus here. I used to think years ago that the acoustic and the electric guitar were virtually the same thing. But experience has shown me that in order to pull the beauty and the nuances out of an acoustic instrument concerning resonance and just the good acoustic sound is that it requires a technique quite a bit different than the one that I use on the electric guitar. And so I discovered this one day when a friend of mine in jazz school invited me to a bluegrass jam. And I went, and I'd never really tried to do that amongst the people who do that, meaning play good, loud, clean, crisp notes. And I was arrogant in my mind, really. I thought I heard the tonal structure, the harmonic structure, and I was like, seems relatively simple to me. And so I tried to do it for myself that day with my buddy. And I began to cramp rather quickly. And one of my friends helped me, concerning steering me on the road to some helpful things. But what I'm saying is that the right hand began to cramp on me because I could not pull good hard notes off the acoustic guitar that would cut through the mix. And I want to discuss with you what it is I've done about that and sent me on this journey to really enjoy playing crisp and clean. And I want to tell you about this concept. I want to tell you about a revelation that I've had. If you have an undisciplined approach with your right hand, it will render too much string contact, not enough. It is a double negative there. I mean, you will touch the strings too much if you're undisciplined. Because what I discovered is just as the proverb. It's in Proverbs 24, I believe. He says, I went past the field of the sluggard, of the man without sense. And I saw that it was overgrown with thorns, thistles, and weeds. And the wall was broken down. And I applied my heart and did receive instruction. And what I'm telling you is that this undisciplined approach, it doesn't render no growth. It renders too much growth. It renders growth of the stuff that you don't want growth of. In order to play really, really well on the acoustic guitar, what you want to do is you want to play what you do want to play without playing the stuff you don't. And I discovered weeds in my hands. I discovered that my string would go down. Even though I was playing the phrases, my pick would go down and touch a string and give a little string clank that I didn't want, or would stop another string from oscillating when it should be oscillating, and it was cutting down on the resonance of my guitar when it should be resonating. And so I have developed a system that I call Rudiments. And these Rudiments, I think they're fun. They're fun to me. And if I do them so many times to where the action in my hand, like for instance, when I play a particular passage, maybe it's a string skip and it's insides or outsides, I'm going to get into all that terminology. But if the slope and trajectory is consistent each time I do it, well, then I have a chance of being mechanically sound. And so I want to tell you about, quickly, if I can, these 4 levels of thought. And I owe this articulation to a man named Eric, who was a ski instructor to me a while back. And I am very grateful for him. He gave articulation to something that I had been thinking about in my mind for quite some time. And while I lament to tell you that I did not do mighty exploits on the snow slopes that day, I did gather from Eric quite a bit. And this is what he says. He says there's 4 levels of thought. The lowest is unconscious incompetence. That is not disrespectful. It's merely descriptive. It's saying you can't do a thing and you don't know this thing you can't do, meaning you can't articulate the objective, or you couldn't articulate any of the mechanisms to get you to the objective. The next level is conscious incompetence, which means you can't do it, but you at least know what it is you can't do. You at least have some idea of what you're trying to do. You struggle in its execution. The third level is conscious competence, which means you can do the thing and you are thinking about it. Like you're doing the thing you're thinking about doing. And this is good. At my best on the ski slopes, I got into this. I was like, I want to turn left, and that means I need to put weight here, bend my knee, do the things I'm supposed to. I'm like, oh, I am turning left. The right action is rendering the right result. The fourth and highest level of thinking is unconscious competence. This is when you can do a thing, but it's not needful that your conscious awareness is beyond the thing. When an eagle is soaring, I would posit it is very unlikely that he's thinking down 3 degrees with left wing. He's just doing the thing. And so unconscious competence frees up the mind to think in merely results. And so that's what I want. I have bricked an immense amount of passages on this guitar. Like gone for a run and then boom, doesn't happen. And I discover most of the time it's because my right hand didn't achieve what was necessary to achieve that passage. It didn't do it. And if I will have an immense amount of very small thoughts about my right hand and think about that and pave that passage and develop convention for that, I am in hopes that it will unleash me into this freedom of never having to think about the right hand. That's what I want. I want to think about it so much that I never have to think about it. And so this has born the methodology of the Rudiments. And I will tell you that they have rendered great fruit for me. And I'd like to take you down this road, or at least see if you want to go further on down that road with me. Let's take a look at what it is that I'm talking about. The two main motions are the insides and the outsides. Now, the inside I articulate as the surface area of the two strings closest together. So if you can see, my pick is in between these two strings. And so if I play with alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, up, I stay inside the two strings. I also could, with alternate picking, play the outsides, where I'm playing the exterior of the strings. And you notice that this requires a larger escape from the strings to be on the side that you should be on. And so when I go to play a passage, if I needed to play an outside, but I failed to get the large escape from the previous string plug, well, then it would produce a slight moment and then an ambiguous rhythm. And so I have created these rudiments, or assembled these rudiments, I should say, that really helps me do this unconsciously. And so just to test this for yourself, use alternate picking and play one note per string and play the whole guitar, all 6 strings. And just see if this is very comfortable for you to do it fluidly, even quickly and fluidly, with power, where you really get a cognitive receipt from every note that you play. Like you recognize, I played that and played it good and clean without your pick hitting any other strings or coming into contact with anything else. You want to play the thing you want and not touch any of the things you don't want. And so do that starting on a down, and do that starting on an up, because it'll have a slightly different feel. If that is not really, really, really easy to you, we should make it really easy to you. Another thing that you could try just right out of the gate to see if you want to go down this journey with me is to cut it off to merely 3 strings, and it would produce a really quick unit of 4. Like if I play the 6th, the 5th, and the 4th only. And I say a unit of 4 because it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just get that going back, and you'll see if you can get this quick inside right there. And then also do the same exact thing on the upstroke, starting with an up. That would be a good thing to just see if your hand is accustomed to doing that well. So now that we've looked at the insides and the outsides a bit, let me show us a practical rudiment and a bit about my progression, how I go through this. So this is a unit of 6, I would consider, and I'm going to play merely the 5th through the 2nd string. I'll start on a down. That's it. And so I feel this is a drummer. You notice that what's needed of us first is an outside. But on the next string set, it's an inside. Then it's an outside, another outside, an inside, and then you're back. So I feel like a drummer there. And so that's fun for me. I like that. But I could easily imagine someone saying to me, I don't want to do that. And that's fair. But before you go, consider this. That once I have that rudiment in there and that contour is baked in, well, then I could play anything on the guitar with my left hand that deals with those strings. So I'm going to run this through a very basic progression, one that goes around the horn, and show you kind of these little pieces that I make to supplement and pair with my rudiments to make them more fun to practice and to actually play music. So I'll start on A minor here. Flub one of those in there, but a double note where I think my pick didn't get down there to the 2nd string right on one of those, but you get the idea. I could get as wacky as I want with this. Also sometimes don't always hold it, but would try to do some sort of staccato or linear approach in a position. So imagine I play that C major 7 chord that I just played, and I use my rudiment, and so I have those notes diminished in between, D minor, diminish. So in our lesson, I would unpack something further and how to put motion in there and so forth. Something like this. So maybe C. And then diminish. And so forth. But keep in mind, all that is merely the doctrine of the right hand doing its thing, and then I find some thing that is interesting to me that pairs with it. So I'm putting in something that I need in my right hand and having exploration and tonality and things that I move with. I often just do goofy stuff. You know, if I had that one. That was spontaneous and on the moment, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna play a thing, and then I'm gonna have one of my voices move down. I'm gonna keep my rudiment riding. You know, that was that's what I'm trying to show you, is that there is something very rigid, and then that rigid thing is taken into an environment where more fluidity can exist. So that's kind of the process that I do when I get a rudiment that I think is very nutritious and very in complexities. We'll focus on it. I'll show it to you, and then we'll put some neat thing or motion to pair with it to make it more fun to practice. The other portion of the acoustic guitar studio that I'll be releasing for first is what I call the neighborhoods. So when I consider the acoustic guitar, it's more, in the open position anyway, it's more like the piano to me than it is the guitar, even though it's the guitar. What I'm saying is that the fretted system, you know, when I take some, let's say I take like a minor chord, and this is beautiful, and then that's the same up here. So, you know, with a fretted system, we're protected to where the fingering's the same. However, in this open position, the open strings, they're applied a bit differently. And so like in the C neighborhood, where I was, I believe, at the beginning of this video, I was picking a little bit in the C neighborhood. The thirds, you have this open string third, and you have this third, and you have this third inside of that shape, you know, and those are ones that I ornament often. And so in that neighborhood, you have this E flat and then the third of the chord, you know, which leads to these licks with these rubs. So these rubs like that are unique to each neighborhood. So in the C neighborhood, I'll show tricks and fingerings and the nuances that I've found, and have a lesson for like the C neighborhood, in which we'll discuss. Like, very briefly, one of the things that I really like to do is play that note in between the 5 and the 6. You know, the pentatonic sound is 5, 6, 1. You know, and there's this pentatonic sound 5, 6, 1. Well, the note that exists in between them is a note I use often to get attitude and flair and feeling. So, and then an ornament on the third. So you have some lick like that, maybe. Oh, my bad. And so that fits differently than it does in the key of, say, D. You know? And so those neighborhoods, I'll have a C neighborhood lesson, a D neighborhood lesson, a G neighborhood lesson, you know? And everything falls a little different in there. You know, so that's what that'll be about, should you choose to go with me. Thank you. I hope this helps you.